What's up, everyone? That GTA conversation really got a lot of people thinking. We got some awesome responses. So, we're definitely going to have a little bit of time here in the beginning, go through a couple of those comments. So, let's get right into it because we're going to be talking the future.
I
Even
would put it as the I don't know, the greatest content roadmap. Not greatest in terms of quality, but in terms of, like, quantity that I've seen in a while.
and a ballsy, I would go with the most ballsy roadmap because we're gonna get into the fact that this isn't the direction that we think they should be going in a certain way, but we'll get into that. First, we're gonna go through some comments from that last Cyberpunk video because we got a lot of great insight on that one. So we're gonna go with Ignis Official. Edge Runners was the final push that the game needed to become successful. It was already great before Edge Runners dropped, but when the show aired and people watched it, the game came back into everyone's minds, ultimately making it popular like it should have been at launch. Side note, update 1.5 was the update that made it playable. 1.6 just refined what 1.5 left for us and added in content for the show. First off, thanks for that. He is completely correct. Once the show came out, everyone just started raving about it and they wanted to jump back in.
Yeah, you know what? My thinking is that CD Projekt Red probably saw the little burst the Witcher franchise got once they made the TV show with Netflix. I think they probably saw the impact, and that's also why with their general like investor relations like meeting, like you saw them planning like the whole. You see them planning like content outside of just video games and all of their universes. You know what I mean? Like inside the worlds are developing, and I think that is a smart concept because that's a good way to like continue hype, but also like in a way like it almost feels kind of like the release of Edge Runners in a way, like revamped, Cyberpunk in a way it wouldn't have happened without it almost. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
the update was good, but like from the show really reinvigorated and
Hmm.
refueled the game. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? I think that's like a good.
Right.
It's not a strategy you can rely on to work
Yeah,
every
it
time, but I think
definitely comes down to whether or not the whatever it is, the medium that you're going out to get back attention to your franchise, you better hope that you execute on that medium, and that medium was the anime show that they came up with, and it executed on every front. So it got people back so that they could see, hey, look, the game is fixed. By the way, now that you're here, isn't this what you guys wanted at launch? Well, there we go. Now we get the uptick in players that we're seeing on Cyberpunk at the moment. But, you would have thought that that would have been enough. You would have thought that, okay, you guys did it. You fixed the game. You got the DLC coming out. Now it's just time to be quiet and just get to work, put your heads down, and make sure Phantom Liberty does something special when it comes out, right?
it feels like they were like really feeling themselves almost like a little bit too much after like the reignited success of Cyberpunk and kind
Hmm.
of like the success of the show. And I mean, I'm sure they've been planning this roadmap for a while. I'm sure it wasn't just because of like the renewed success or like
Right.
that they're like doing this, but it almost kind of comes off that way a little bit.
That's probably how you could look at it if you just want to take it at face value. But we're going to go through each of these projects, not just the name itself or what it's supposed to represent, but the people working on it. Different things that CDPR is doing in terms of expansions. So, first off, we have what many people would say is the biggest project that they announced. And it was one that was announced already a while ago. We did a video. We'll have the link for that up here in the corner where we talked about the future of The Witcher, and we mentioned the fact that they had shown off this picture, which is just the School of the Lynx with a snow background saying the next saga is in development, right? That was Project Polaris. This was back in, I think, March when they announced it, right? That's obviously going to be the start of the next saga when it comes to The Witcher. And now there may be some connections between the different schools, the School of the Wolf and I think the School of the Cat, right? I think that's where you come up with the School of the Lynx. So it is cool that they're going to continue their trilogy, but this is by CDPR and this is their next RPG story that they're going to be going into for The Witcher, and it's a saga. So Project Polaris definitely up there as one of the more anticipated projects that they announced, right?
If not there, I mean, arguably, if public perception is how I understand it to be, I mean, the Witcher franchise is always going to be like their staple franchise. So
Mhm.
like I could argue that like Polaris might be their most, as much as Cyberpunk is great and the sequel I'm sure will be looked forward to. I think the next Witcher game is going to be much more looked forward to by people in
Yeah,
general.
yeah, I agree. So we're gonna go ahead into the next project that really piqued my interest because it seems to have the same status as Project Polaris in terms of another IP, another connection to the Witcher IP, excuse me. Uh that's just gonna be a spin-off in a way of, the main series, but it is gonna be in and of its own right, a full Witcher RPG, single player, open world, Witcher setting, all of the good stuff. What do you guys think about a spin-off alongside Project Polaris?
There's such a depth of, like, stories to
Mhm,
take from, like, the amount of, like, books and short stories that were written, like, the
mhm,
original, like, Polish novels and short stories that were written, so, like, if you I mean, yes, I know a lot of those books focused on Geralt, but, like, I don't know, I just feel like this it's such like like a
mhm,
well-established world, you know what I mean, in terms of, like, world
mhm,
building that, like,
mhm.
that you can do so much more, you know what I mean? Almost in the same
Yeah,
way that, like the same way, like, the Elder Scrolls games are great because each game is a different setting within, like, the giant
Yep.
universe. It's like to me, it can be, like, translated the same way to The
mhm,
Witcher, so I
mhm,
have high hopes. I think
mhm.
it's a very good
Yeah,
idea. I think
just one more detail about that too. It's actually gonna be developed by an external studio headed by experienced developers who have worked on past Witcher games. That's straight from CDPR themselves from the official announcement. You can definitely feel comfortable with the project that they're gonna be doing over there in their end. But it could be safe to say that the flavor of that project will be different. Gameplay wise, something will be different, something will be new, right? They're definitely gonna try something that probably hasn't been done before in the fantasy RPG space. So they look like they have the freedom to sort of, do what they want. So we're definitely gonna have to wait and see with that project. There's not a lot that's really been, kind of set in stone for that one. So they really are just gonna work from the ground up on that. But it is right next to the Project Polaris, not related to the story of Project Polaris nor to the original trilogy, but it is in the same universe. So we'll leave it at that for Project Canis Majoris. Then we're gonna go to Project Sirius. It's in pre-production right now in one of CDPR studios, the Molasses Flood. But from CDPR's words, it will differ from their past productions. It's gonna offer multiplayer gameplay on top of a single player experience, including a campaign with quests and a story. Now, this one concerns me. Having a game come out like this, which really, from what I'm seeing, it hasn't worked in the past. If you look at the history of past releases that are similar to this, multiplayer gameplay on top of a single player experience with a campaign that has quests and the story, and that just breathes live service game to me. And I don't think that that's something CDPR can manage to get into. What do you think about that?
But my whole thing is, like you guys mentioned in the past, they have to learn from those mistakes from other companies. You can't have a whole roadmap like this. Like they're doing a Marvel right now. If you think about it, they're planning out like phase like one or
Mhm.
two or
That's a
whatever,
great way
right?
of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's okay to map it out. Just take your time with each game. Don't try to force things out,
Mhm.
and learn from y'all mistakes.
If you look at what they're saying, you got a couple of games that you could look at. Successes such as Titanfall, right? Titanfall 2's single player experience was considered an amazing single player experience, right? On top of what is it still is a stellar multiplayer experience in terms of flying around, running on walls, all of that, and then summoning your Titan. Yeah, that's an example of this kind of game where it worked, right? But then you have other examples like Destiny where it works sometimes, right? They like right now there's a lot of hype amongst their community with Lightfall. They've gotten their fans, their hardcore fans, they've hooked them in. They're great. But in terms of those outside players, they really just got turned off by that formula of, hey, this is a game, it's got nothing right now, but in 2 years you'll have a game, together, and we'll release that and sell it to you at full price at that time too. It hasn't worked for me. It's toxic nature. What do you think about them doing that?
Well, I'm glad that players are waking up in terms of Destiny. Just want to get that out.
Yeah, I mean, they still have a great player base, don't get me wrong, but there are definitely it's a lot of people that are just done with that formula, they don't like it. It's not a good formula for us. That's definitely their biggest risk project to me. It didn't get a lot of, burn. They didn't talk about it too much. They just gave a couple of sentences, said who's making
You
it.
know what? I have a hankering feeling that if any of these games is gonna, like, fall through the cracks and wind up, like, being canceled, it'll be this one.
Yeah, that's just what I'm trying to say. It's just
Just
that
Yeah.
that.
it just seems like the one that it's the weakest link in the chain, All of these other ones, they seem to have very ambitious directions, right? In terms of what they want to do. But then you got Sirius, and you also got, the Project Hadar. But even Project Hadar, which we'll get into in a second, is just another project that has a better direction than this one. This one seems to be following a formula that's cash grabby in nature. So I'm not a fan of Project Sirius. So we'll just leave that at that. I hope to see more from them, and hopefully Molasses Flood Studios doing great things over
One
there.
thing for Project Series, though, as long as they don't mess up the same way Assassin's Creed Unity did, I think they'll be okay.
You don't want to release any games that are subpar in nature just because you became too ambitious and released a huge roadmap like this, you know? And it seems like this is a great idea, but because they're so stretched right now in terms of what they want to do, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, as Brendan
And they're
says.
already a company that's had to, like, combat allegations of crunch and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I know they really have to, like, be careful with, like, you know what I mean, like, getting overly ambitious, you know?
But I really just wanna give shine to Project Hadar because this one seems to be, one of their projects that's probably gonna interest us in the future in terms of being that next generation. Yeah, I can't believe we're already talking about it, but this definitely seems to be that far out in the horizon, in terms of where it is on the roadmap. And it looks to be either it will be on a PS5 Pro, the next Xbox console. Obviously already we already got the 40 series graphics cards announced. I don't even want to talk about that. I'm so upset. I feel like I just got a 3080 Ti and now there's a 4090 out. It's like they slap you in the face. But this is definitely a next generation project that they have. It's still in the concept phase. It's going to be a unique IP, and apparently it's been in, the thought process and what made me say is incubation since last year. Okay. It has the least amount of information, but it's good to know that CDPR is looking that far in the future, and that this isn't something that's taking up their attention right now, right
Yeah, well,
now.
we gotta think, like, if CD Projekt Red is just announcing it, like, they haven't announced anything besides the intent to make a
Right,
new IP, right? And
right.
so, just think of that same timeline of how Cyberpunk between announcement and release. Cyberpunk had its first, like, trailer, not with any game footage, but, like, the first little, like, concept trailer in, like, 2013 that was released, and the game
Mhm.
didn't come out until the end of 2020. 7 years, and arguably the game should have had a few more years to gestate, you know what I mean? So, like, think I could see this game easily taking, like,
Yeah.
10 years to come out. I'm sure they could scale up and, like, hire more people, bring on more, developers, or bring on more,
Yeah, well, I mean, the scale up thing is definitely the direction that they went in because they've acquired all these studios. They're opening up new locations and things like that. So it seems like they understand the undertaking that this is, and they're taking the appropriate measures to staff up and make sure these locations, I guess, are probably state of the art, right? You'd have to imagine some of these new locations are the newest technology available to develop in. So you know that they abandoned their Red engine, right? They're going with Unreal Engine 5 going forward. So that could be another reason why they're able to scale up so much because it's a familiar engine to work with for a lot of people already. There are probably things that people will learn as the years go on because it's rather new, but it's Unreal Engine and it's rather friendly when it comes to dealing with, you know, large groups of people and having projects spread out. It's a unified platform for them all to work on. So that's good. You look at all these projects, Project Orion's going to be a cyberpunk game. All right, going forward, it's going to be developed by a new USA location that's going to be that's done in house by CDPR officials. So it's just going to be their new location in the US, which is
I
awesome.
believe it's in
Obviously,
Boston.
huh?
I believe it's in Boston.
Oh wow, look at that. You wish them the best of luck. They opening up a new location. That's obviously a huge, story for them. So you hope that they do great things there. Project Sirius is going to be a Witcher game. All right, going forward, it's just going to be another sort of spin-off story with a multiplayer element and a single player experience. Project Polaris is going to be their next, I guess, game that begins the next saga for The Witcher. Uh, you know, taken from the original Witcher series, going to be the same gameplay. Canis Majoris is a new single player open world RPG, just like the Witcher original trilogy, but it's not going to be related to any of the stories in Project Polaris or the original trilogy, right? Hadar, a new off in the distance title that they're developing that's in the concept phase that they're really excited about, it seems, but it's nowhere near um, release. We got probably 5, 6, 7 years maybe before we see that. Um, What do you guys think about that whole roadmap right there? Do you think it's too much? Do you think that they're gonna handle it with the new staffing? What do you guys think about CDPR's direction?
As long as they give themselves like room to breathe. Like it's not like too much. It really depends on the exact time frame they're thinking about here, and like I guess
Mhm.
how much they've been able to really scale up their team and the people.
Mhm.
Right.
Because if they have, you know what I mean, like I don't know, just if this is like with the
Right.
same development, the amount of same people and the same amount of like, I guess company like ethos they had before when they were developing Cyberpunk, then like this is definitely a little too much. But if things have changed, they've brought on more people and scaled up, and like will give their team more time to breathe. And this is just like telling you what they're going to be working on for the next like decade, basically. Then yes, this is fantastic. But if this is like,
Mhm.
oh, this is like our roadmap for the next like the near future or whatever, next 5 years or whatever, then it's a little bit like, okay, that's a little, but I don't think that's
Mhm.
the case. They didn't, they haven't set any actual hard dates
Right.
on anything, which was the right move.
Mhm.
To just announcing the intention. So
Mhm.
that's good for me then.
Yeah, there are definitely some projects that are further along and some that are definitely, just thoughts that they have right now, it seems like. So you can't just see the roadmap and say, "Oh my god, they're doing 5 projects at the same time." No, they've bought new studios, right? They've got new locations now in multiple countries, right? They're opening up a new USA location. They're adding hundreds and hundreds of people to this Project Polaris game that they're gonna make for The Witcher. So they're taking all the necessary precautions to make sure that these games get developed. You on. So if we're thinking, maybe Project Polaris and Canis Majoris are rather successful games, they'll do just fine. Sirius and Orion being the sequel to Cyberpunk, which honestly, you hope that they just release a good game, a working game for that one, because we thought that they would leave the Cyberpunk universe completely after the DLC and just stick to their guns and stay with The Witcher. But if they're gonna continue Cyberpunk, we'll see how Phantom Liberty does, and we'll give them credit if credit is due. We'll see what happens. What do you guys think about the CDPR roadmap? Do you guys think that it's a little too ambitious? Do you think that they're doing the right thing by mapping out their future, but they're still taking their time with each part of the process? Or do you guys think that maybe they should have just left the cyberpunk aspect alone, focused on Witcher going forward? You let us know down in the comments. If you have anything that you want to chime in on, go ahead and do that too. We love responding as always. I got Show on one mic, I got Brendan on the other. My name's Chris, and this is Filmic Gaming, guys. Peace out.